This is Siberia, a place whose name strikes a chill chord of dread. To us in the West, the Russian tundra has always had a forbidding, icy face. Now, for the first time, we can discover the hidden tapestry of animal life that is woven into the very ice itself. Siberia's natural treasures are not only locked behind the tundra ice. To the south, the frozen plains merge into the greatest forest on Earth, the Taiga. The Soviet Union covers 1/6 of the world's land surface. Its sheer size has had a profound influence on the climate. Nearly 2/3 of the country are covered by tundra and taiga forest. It was the sale of furs from forest animals which fueled the growth of the Russian Empire in the 12th century. Today, the inefficient, centralized economy of the Soviet state cannot even feed its growing cities. Under communism, grandiose 5-year plans assumed that the Soviet Union's natural resources were limitless and could be exploited indefinitely. It is now acknowledged that despite its size, the Russian wilderness can be destroyed. Many of today's city dwellers are themselves the descendants of rural peasants and still draw strength from the forests which begin as soon as the suburbs end. Twice the size of the Amazon rainforest, the taiga produces thousands of tons of berries, honey, birch juice, and herbal medicines. But the taiga is so vast that there are still dark, trackless places where animals have the forest to themselves. In autumn, the silence is broken by the shrill cries of nutcrackers as they search for cedar cones and insects. They cache seeds for the winter, hiding them beneath moss. In hard winters, squirrels often benefit from the nutcrackers' hidden stores. Hazel grouse feed on the many berries which carpet the forest floor. One of the commonest game birds found in Russian forests, over 6 million hazel grouse are hunted every autumn for sport. At dusk, the tiny birch mouse emerges to feed on insects or berries. It has to prepare for the longest hibernation period of any mammal, up to 8 months. Bank voles stoke up on fungi. Winter comes quickly to the taiga. Great grey owls plunge onto voles and shrews which they are able to hear moving about beneath the newly fallen snow. The great spotted woodpecker wedges cones in the trunk of a tree to gain a better purchase while extracting the seeds. The largest animal in the taiga forest, the elk, was almost exterminated by hunters by the start of the 20th century. Despite their long legs, elk find it hard to move through very deep snow and often become stranded in drifts. In winter, they stay in parts of the forest with dense undergrowth, feeding on resinous pine needles and bark, which most other animals find unpalatable. When moving through the forest, elk try to stay off well-worn tracks to avoid attacks by wolves. Nearly half the calves born each year will fall victim to wolves or bears. The Russians have always perceived the wolf as an enemy, a predator which appears suddenly through the gloom to attack cattle and sheep. In the 1950s, nearly 30,000 wolves were killed every year. Though hunting pressures have eased, there is still a bounty on every wolf's head. As November draws to a close, a low, watery sun sinks beneath the trees of the Taiga by early afternoon. "2,000 miles to the north, the sinking sun ushers in the long polar night. As the last ray of light is finally extinguished, a 3-month period of darkness begins. Temperatures fall to -60, and fierce winds drive particles of ice and snow before them, each grain a tiny blade cutting everything in its path. Only the eerie light of the aurora borealis, the northern lights, illuminates this cold inferno. It is only by February that the sun rises above the horizon for the first time. By March, there are 8 hours of daylight. On the Arctic coast, the female polar bear leaves the cramped den which has been home to her and her cubs for the last 5 months. For the first few days, she will dig out vegetation from beneath the snow before moving onto the sea ice that lies only 10 miles away. She stops to let the cubs rest and cradles them with her huge paws as they suckle the fat, rich milk. Further to the south, the wide wastes of the tundra are also awakening. Male snow buntings arrive early before the snow has melted to seek out the best breeding territories. The only food available to them so early in the year are sparse seeds scattered by the wind. Stretching vistas of snow reveal the footprints of larger animals on the tundra. Arctic foxes have spent a solitary winter, but now they begin to pair, and everywhere there are 2 sets of tracks in the snow instead of 1. Throughout the winter, the foxes roamed from taiga forest to the sea ice. In March, they returned to re-establish their dens and hunting territories on the tundra. Snowy owls are one of the few birds to remain here throughout the winter. Now they too search for a suitable nest site. The Arctic fox's white winter coat ensures that it is better insulated against the cold than any other mammal, a fact which has led to its undoing. Every winter, hunters set traps for Arctic foxes. These luxury furs are exported, But less exotic fur clothing is still essential to people living in northern parts of the country. An official quota is set for each trapper, but a black market flourishes in illegally trapped pelts. The fur trade has always played a significant role in Russia's history. During the reign of Ivan the Terrible, the sale of furs to foreign merchants was the largest source of income in the imperial treasury. Fur trapping has always been a lonely way of life. Even now, the hunter's only link with civilization is the plane which comes at the end of winter to take the pelts to Norilsk. Now the largest town in the world north of the Arctic Circle, Norilsk was founded in the 1930s, using political prisoners to extract nickel, cobalt, copper, and coal. The Norilsk smelting complex emits 2.5 million tons of sulfur dioxide a year, the same as the whole of Canada. A vast swathe of taiga, stretching over 2,000 square miles around Norilsk, has been damaged by the pollution. Ironically, the conquest of the Siberian tundra was only possible because the Russians learned from the native peoples who had always lived there. It was the vast populations of wild reindeer which allowed man to settle in the tundra many thousands of years ago. Even now, the Soviet Union has the largest population of wild and domestic reindeer in the world, over 4 million animals. The Nensi people still use traditional lassos to select reindeer from their domestic herds. Under old clan traditions, each family owned 1,000 reindeer which provided all their needs. Since the 1930s, the Nensi have been forced to settle in government-controlled collective farms and are restricted to much smaller pastures for their herds. There are now believed to be about 30,000 Nensi living on the tundra today. They used to cover vast distances with their herds, following the reindeer's natural migration pattern for over 1,000 miles. Now they range over a much smaller area. In the winter, ballocks, portable huts made of reindeer skin, are pulled by large teams of reindeer. The Nensi believed the tundra was peopled by spirits of lakes, streams, and mountains. Shamans, or holy men, spoke to the spirits by means of a reindeer skin drum. Reindeer still provide the raw materials for daily life. Long reindeer skin boots made from the thick fur from the reindeer's legs, the soles made from the curly fur on the forehead, which gives a hard-wearing, non-slip surface. The outer garment is a loose, ankle-length reindeer skin coat, lined with fur. Reindeer meat is usually eaten boiled, though it is sometimes eaten raw or preserved by smoking. Up to 250,000 tons of reindeer meat from collective farms are sold every year to northern cities in the Soviet Union. In winter, the reindeer can smell lichens and green grass roots buried beneath the snow. They spend hours every day digging with the sharp edges of their splayed front hooves. A special enzyme, lichenase, allows the reindeer to digest the lichen. The reindeer's ability to subsist on plants which few other animals eat enables it and the Nentsi to live here. Spring comes suddenly to the Russian tundra. Overnight, the ice breaks on rivers. This is the Atapiel, or thaw, so striking in its suddenness that it has become linked in the Russian mind with the freeing of the spirit. The floodwaters disturb one animal which has stayed in its fastness beneath the snow throughout the winter. The Siberian lemming may already have given birth to 2 families beneath the insulating snow by the time the thaw arrives. Lemmings can swim. As meltwater penetrates their burrows, they are forced to make a dash for the dry land. As the marshes and lakes begin to thaw, a vast larder of food which has been locked beneath the ice becomes available. White-fronted geese are the first to arrive, the advance guard of an enormous influx of birds which migrate thousands of miles to breed on the tundra every summer. The silent spring has become a rude awakening, a tumult of calls as everywhere birds court, establish territories, and mate. White-fronted geese paddle to expose the fleshy roots of sedges and cotton grass. Nearly all the red-breasted geese in the world breed on the Russian tundra. They have to squeeze their entire breeding cycle into only 70 or 80 days. The birds mate as soon as they arrive. As soon as open leads of water appear, king eiders arrive. If a sudden freeze occurs, the birds will starve. Male king eiders who have found a mate threaten rival males with chin-lifting displays. Red-throated divers arrive to claim small pools for nesting. If an intruder appears on a pool that is already occupied, the resident pair display to him, making it clear that this is their territory. If there is one thing which unites all these birds in a common cause, it is the presence of Arctic foxes. Every nesting bird has devised its own strategy for avoiding the fox's attentions. They will take eggs, young chicks, or even adults if they get the chance. Already the fox's white coat is being replaced by thinner brown fur, blending with the emerging browns of the tundra. The large, white-fronted geese are certainly able to defend their eggs with aggressive displays. The vixen makes her way back to the den and the waiting cubs. On the flat expanse of the tundra, suitable den sites on small mounds are very rare. This often means that a particular den has been used for centuries by many generations of foxes. Born underground in early June, this is the first time the 3-week-old cubs have ventured far from the den entrance. They are born into a fickle world, where sudden snow blizzards descend without warning, even in June. The fox's food supply is even more unpredictable. If there are not enough lemmings to go round this year, most of the cubs will die. In summer, the Russian tundra shifts into a strange time of perpetual daylight, the midnight sun, which lasts until the end of July. Wild reindeer leave the protection of the dwarf forest zone, where they have spent the winter, and begin the long migration north to summer pastures. They are always on the move. Females give birth almost on the hoof, and the calves are able to run with the rest of the herd a couple of days later. Small groups of females with calves lead the way, followed by mature stags. They graze on the tender new leaves of dwarf willow and other shrubs. As the reindeer move north, they enter the realm of the snowy owl. Nearly all snowy owl nests are on hillocks because these catch the sun first, melting the snow. They also give the owls a commanding view of the tundra. The chicks are beginning to hatch. The 5 eggs were laid at 2-day intervals, so the age difference between the youngest and oldest chicks will be quite large. The female devours the eggshell, which is rich in calcium, and would otherwise draw attention to the nest. During the first month, only the male hunts. He catches most lemmings during the night, when a soft spectral light washes the landscape. This is also when the lemmings leave the protection of their burrows to feed. The male never feeds the chicks. He just passes the food over in his beak and leaves. At first, the chicks are cloaked in thick white down, their eyes only opening on the 5th day. The female broods them almost continuously for the first 3 weeks, and her mate has to provide food for her, as well as the chicks. Snowy owls feed almost entirely on lemmings. If they are abundant, the owls may raise a clutch of up to 10 chicks. If there are few lemmings, they may not breed at all. During years when there are plenty of lemmings, the male may bring the female so many that she sometimes refuses to accept any more from him. As patches of bare grass appear, lemmings run about searching for suitable nest sites. As the snow thaws, the lemmings become increasingly vulnerable. The soil is still too hard to dig, yet the protection of the snow vanishes day by day. The dog fox takes advantage of these early days of plenty. For the first 6 weeks or so, the cubs still suckle from their mother, but are gradually weaned onto the monotonous lemming diet. An inquisitive cub tries to make a friendly overture, but loud growls of disapproval from the vixen drive the dog fox away. The vixen discourages the male from staying or having any contact with the cubs, worried that he will harm them. He lingers wistfully for quite some time, as though wishing to be part of the growing family, instead of merely a provider of lemmings. Meanwhile, the unfortunate subject of the fox's attention scuttles about the surface, gathering grasses to line her summer nest. The winter weather determines whether there will be a flush of vegetation in the spring, and therefore enough food for the lemmings. By July, nearly every mature female is pregnant. There are more males than females born in every litter, probably because more males are killed by predators. Breeding females are safe underground. These newly born lemmings will themselves breed within a few weeks. This is how the seeds of a mass population explosion are sown. The growing season is so short that the community of plants which carpets the tundra may have taken hundreds of years to evolve. In summer, the upper layer of soil is permanently waterlogged, as meltwater cannot drain through the solid layer of frozen ground or permafrost underneath. Strikingly regular patterns are created by ice wedges, which may take thousands of years to form. The warm weather not only encourages plant growth, it also fuels the multiplication of hordes of mosquitoes, gnats, and biting flies. In a desperate attempt to flee the plague of blood-sucking insects, the wild reindeer are driven north towards the cool breezes on higher ground. Small herds merge into larger herds as the reindeer follow ancient routes etched into the moss over thousands of years. The broad hooves allow reindeer to swim well. The air is filled with the constant low grunts of mothers trying to keep in contact with their calves. The extermination of natural predators such as wolves has allowed the wild reindeer population to grow unchecked, increasing the risk that such vast numbers will trample and overgraze the delicate winter pastures. The solution has been to cull up to 60,000 reindeer a year at river crossings on the return migration in the autumn. There are fears that excessive culling may reduce the average age of the herd, allowing ancient knowledge of traditional migration routes to be lost. The height of the reindeer migration is the time when Arctic foxes are on the lookout for unattended chicks in nests on the ground. Long-tailed skuas know that attack is the best defense against the fox. Now the size of small kittens, the cubs have grown, and so have their appetites. Each cub has a lemming to itself, which it carries off in triumph. It's believed that every fox eats 6 lemmings a day. cubs are older, the vixen allows the dog fox to approach them. But he has little time for frivolous games and is soon cuffing his boisterous offspring around the ear. Before the male leaves on another lemming mission, the female greets him, lying down submissively. The dog fox cannot find lemmings quite so easily now that they have had time to dig a network of escape tunnels in the thawed ground. He is still on the lookout for unwary nesting birds. The red-breasted geese are obvious targets. The smallest geese in the whole of Europe and Asia, they are unable to defend their eggs or young against the foxes. Peregrine falcons are also capable of taking red-breasted goose chicks. So why does this red-breasted goose risk nesting within yards of the falcon? Both peregrines and snowy owls maintain a fox-free cordon around their own nests during the breeding season. Any other birds nesting within this area also gain protection from attack by foxes. This relationship is unique because while they are breeding, the falcons only hunt for food well away from the nest. They do not attack any bird that might be nesting close by, even if it is potential prey. The bond between the geese and peregrines is so strong that any decline in falcon numbers may directly threaten red-breasted geese, the rarest geese in the Arctic. As an Arctic fox swims silently ashore, it is unaware that it is being watched. The larger female peregrine is more effective than the male in maintaining a fox-free zone. The unfortunate fox stops to slake his thirst in the snow, unaware that he has now strayed into the breeding territory of a male snowy owl. Snowy owls can kill Arctic foxes by diving repeatedly at them with beak and talons. This time the fox gets away with only a few bruises. The owl continues his search for lemmings. The demands from the nest are growing even more insistent. The female and her eldest chick engage in a tug-of-war of greed. If this was a poor lemming year, it is unlikely that all the owlets would have survived. But this year, there are plenty to go around, and even the youngest will probably pull through. Now the chicks are able to defend themselves, the female leaves the nest to hunt. Red-breasted geese have nested close to the snowy owls to gain the same protection they received from the peregrine falcon. Now the pair begin to lead their little family of goslings down to the water. Red-breasted geese rely on good timing for success. They must lay their eggs so that they coincide exactly with the peregrine or owl breeding period. There are dire consequences if they leave it too late. As soon as the female owl is hunting again, the geese and goslings lose their protected status and become prey. They must get their family down onto the safety of the water and make their escape before she becomes a threat. Even adult geese are fair game for the larger female owl. Now the male owl sees a chance to grab the unprotected goslings. The geese make a desperate attempt to protect their young, but the male has got there before them. It is unusual for the geese to be caught out in this way. Most of them manage to shuttle their goslings onto the water and glide away to safety. The upper layer of soil has now thawed completely, but permafrost 1,000 feet deep hasn't thawed since the last ice age. Foxes choose high, well-drained mounds as den sites, because this allows them a sufficient depth of unfrozen soil to dig out their burrows. Many are abandoned unfinished, because the foxes reach the permafrost layer too soon. Each new tenant cleans out the burrows and enlarges them into ever more luxurious abodes, with extra entrances and a network of tunnels stretching for up to 90 square feet. Generations of foxes have enriched the soil around the den, and lush vegetation has taken hold. After a long shift at the earth face, the female retires, but the cubs refuse to leave her alone. The male emerges from another tunnel entrance and is soon besieged by the cubs. The parents stay on until the cubs are able to hunt for themselves. By the time they are 5 months old, they leave the den forever and are on their own. The snowy owls have left the nest and are beginning to exercise their wings. Already there is a chill in the air and a bite to the wind. The days are beginning to shorten. The white-fronted geese are on the move. Throughout September, wave after wave of white-fronted and red-breasted geese fly south to wintering grounds in Europe and on the Caspian Sea. As the first snowfalls of the year whiten the tundra, the reindeer also head south to the forest tundra zone, where there is more shelter and the snows remain soft. The stags have been building up their body weight throughout the summer in readiness for the rut. Mature bulls bellow and compete for the right to mate. If ill-matched, two bulls are unlikely to waste time and energy fighting. If two bulls of equal stature compete for dominance, then they will lock antlers. The domestic reindeer are also returning to the shelter of the dwarf forest. Soon the Nentsi and their herds, and the wild reindeer and geese, will abandon the tundra to winter, leaving it to those wild things which know it best, the lemmings, Arctic foxes, and snowy owls.